Part 27. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 261. After Suren left, the originally silent hall immediately became chaotic. Looking at the corpses outside the hall, everyone felt a little scared. Suren is really breaking the news. Let's not talk about why he has such terrifying strength, let's just talk about the few people who died outside. Whenever this news is revealed, it will cause shock all over the world. Why did Suren dare to leave like this as if nothing had happened? He even said he would go back to sleep. They will definitely not be able to sleep tonight. The impact of this incident is definitely no less than that of this trial competition. Okay, just give me a rest. Wang Changjun shouted loudly, shocking everyone, and then ordered his men to bring in the bodies outside, and then closed the main hall door. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but speculate again on what Wang Changjun was going to do. Before Suren left, he greeted Wang Changjun alone, indicating that the two people had known each other for a long time. Minister Wang, what do you mean? Why is it closed? Yeah, if you don't go after Suren, why are you locking us up? Wang Changjun looked at everyone in the hall and raised their hands, and then explained loudly. Don't misunderstand me. This matter is so big that there is no room for mistakes. The Gu family, the Nangong family and the Cao family are all powerful families. If this matter is leaked now, we will not continue with this trial. Now I would like to ask you to keep your mouth shut about this matter, do whatever you need to do tomorrow, and act as if nothing happened. As soon as Wang Changjun said these words, the whole audience was in an uproar. Is this protecting Suren? What do the officials want to do? Don't they care about this? The official is probably afraid of Suren's strength. After all, Gu Jianfeng is dead. Who is Suren's opponent in this mountain? Everyone was talking non-stop, and the hall suddenly became chaotic again. You can eat randomly, but you can't talk randomly. What does this matter have to do with Suren? The younger generation of the three major families conspired to assassinate Suren but failed, and Suren killed him instead. Gu Jianfeng and Nangong Wenchen attacked a junior and died due to lack of strength. This is the fact tonight. When Wang Changjun said this, he changed the topic and said coldly. If I find other sounds coming out, don't blame me for being rude. Everyone here is a talented person. I don't think you can understand what I say, right? Of course, I still hope that everyone can keep your mouth shut. If you have to, you can tell the facts I just said. If something like this happened, it would be impossible for the three major families not to send people to investigate. It is basically impossible for these people present not to say a word. So Wang Changjun thought for a while and could only settle for the next best thing. Now he wanted to tell the king of the country the news immediately and ask him to make a decision. Excuse me, everyone, please stay in the palace for a few more hours. I have something to go out for. Wang Changjun led his people outside the palace. Due to the formation restrictions on the mountainside, electronic equipment had long been blocked, and Wang Changjun had to go out to notify the king. Kyoto. In a courtyard. The king's eyes glowed brighter and brighter as he looked at the encrypted message coming from his cell phone. In the end, he even stood up from his seat in excitement. Good. Suren did not disappoint me. I thought it would take some time, but I didn't expect it to be so easy. I have to do something before the news gets out. The king thought for a moment, then shouted outside the house. Somebody come. The two guards guarding the door opened the door and walked in. Master, what are your orders? Send me an order to order the governors of the 4 southeastern states, the 4 northeastern states, and the 5 Central Plains states to participate in a video conference. Also call all department ministers to follow me to the meeting hall. As soon as the order was issued, all departments were put into operation. It only took about 15 minutes. All the people who should be present have arrived. Even several elders from the Magic Association and the Warrior Association, who basically did not participate in worldly affairs, all arrived at the meeting hall. The king simply told what happened. What? Guji Unfeng and Nangong Wenchen died in Daoshan. Suren's strength is becoming more and more unpredictable. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? If this matter is not handled properly, I'm afraid it will cause chaos. In the video conference, if anyone was the most surprised, it was Donghua Prefecture Governor Lu Wenwen. Donghua Prefecture is one of the 4 southeastern prefectures, so Lu Wenwen was naturally invited. When did Suren become so powerful? Even the heads of the 2 major families were killed. This. Lu Wenwen found it incredible no matter how he thought about it. After all, his impression of Suren still only existed a few months ago. Suren didn't send any news back, so he naturally didn't know much. Master, what do you mean by calling us here? Everyone looked at the king. I urgently call you here tonight. There is only one thing. I want you to work together to get rid of the Nangong family and the Gu family. As for the Cao family, the ancestor of the Cao family is still alive. You only need to send people from the 5 states of the Central Plains to defend the Cao family. You don't need to take action. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. However, they only frowned slightly. After all, as the top leaders of the Dragon Kingdom, they naturally knew the problems of the family. It's just that they didn't expect the king to take action so quickly, and they didn't even receive any news in advance. Master, when will we take action? Tonight, immediately. Everyone is divided into 2 groups. They use the teleportation array to go to the state capital where the 2 families are located. They will first eliminate their main forces. After dawn, they will then take the flying boat to the major cities to eliminate their affiliated forces. You have to be quick, don't give them time to react. Everything must be done with a sense of purpose. For this operation, you can invite all local professionals to join us under the slogan of killing the traitors. I don't think they'll miss this opportunity. Kill the rebels. Everyone nodded, it was reasonable. These 3 families are provoking the official if they dare to openly assassinate the students in the trial competition. The king stood up and looked at everyone. Everyone, the stability of Dragon Kingdom's future depends on you. I will personally go to the Cao family in the Central Plains to visit the ancestors of the Cao family. You can go ahead and do it tonight. He is the lord of the country, and he will definitely live up to his trust. Everyone stood up and left quickly, and soon the meeting hall became quiet. Tonight in Dragon Kingdom, everyone is talking about today's secret realm assessment. Little did he know that a major event that could shock the country and even the world was quietly happening. Tonight is destined to be a sleepless night for some people. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 262. Cao Family. Cao Bufan took Cao Yan's body around several times and finally returned here. He also collapsed from exhaustion due to excessive use of the space displacement ability of the universe mirror. In the main hall of the Cao family. The ancestor of the Cao family, Cao Meng, looked at Cao Yan's body with a calm expression. No one knew what he was thinking. The Cao family members were lined up on both sides of the hall. No one spoke, and no one dared to disturb his ancestor. In the Cao family, this ancestor is God, and what he says is God's will, and no one can disobey it. Although he looks kind and friendly now, when he was young, he was a ruthless man who came out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. In the Central Plains, who is not afraid of the name of the ancestor of the Cao family? However, Cao Meng is already 148 this year and is only 2 years away from his deadline. 150 years old is the limit. No one can exceed this age, and naturally he cannot exceed this limit. Well, I don't know how much time passed before Cao Meng sighed softly. What is supposed to come has come. I thought I could still protect the Cao family while I was alive, and keep the Cao family prosperous for another 2 years. Now it seems that this is just wishful thinking on my part. Bufin, is that Junior really as powerful as you said? Cao Meng looked at Cao Bufin, who was lying on the chair a little exhausted, and asked. Cao Bufin nodded laboriously and said extremely weakly. His strength is at least level 9 to level 50. I have warned Xiao Yan a long time ago, but he didn't listen to me, which led to a catastrophe. Cao Meng sighed again when he heard this, turned around and returned to the main seat. I have also heard about this Junior. The Su family in Kyoto, the Du family in southwest China, and now 3 major families are provoking him at the same time. Haha, it seems that our young king can't wait any longer. The Cao family members were confused after hearing this. What does this have to do with the king? Isn't this what the junior named Suren did? Ancestor, you have to make the decision for my son. A middle-aged man full of alcohol and lust walked out of the crowd and knelt down with a plop. His talent and strength were average, and after the death of his ancestor, the position of the head of the family had nothing to do with him. But Cao Yan's talent made his dusty heart active again. I thought I could stand up with Cao Yan, but instead I found my son's body. The ancestor of the Cao family glanced at the man who was kneeling on the ground and crying bitterly. He ignored him and just sat there quietly looking ahead, as if waiting for something. After a while, a servant of the Cao family ran in quickly from outside the hall and loudly reported. Ancestor, the king wants to see you. Everyone in the Cao family was stunned when they heard this. Why did the king come to visit late at night? And it happened to be when this happened, combined with what the ancestor said just now, could something big really be happening? Cao Meng waved his hand and said. Let him in. Before Cao Meng finished speaking, a deep and powerful voice sounded in the hall. No need, I'm already here. Everyone turned to look and saw a heroic and majestic middle-aged man walking out of the void in one step. The aura emanating from his body forced everyone in the Cao family to take a few steps back. Snort. Cao Meng snorted coldly and broke the momentum, which allowed everyone in the Cao family to breathe a sigh of relief. The king smiled slightly when he saw this, then he cupped his hands and said. Long Xian has met Mr. Cao. Cao Meng's eyes were as calm as water, and he didn't know what he was thinking. The two just looked at each other for a long time before Cao Meng said. I wonder what the king's important business is when he comes here late at night. The king looked at Cao Yan's body on the ground, then raised his head and smiled lightly. It's nothing serious. It's just that I haven't visited the old man for a long time. I thought it was time to come and visit you. After all, among the older generation of people who have contributed to the Dragon Kingdom, you are the only one who is still alive. Cao Meng narrowed his eyes when he heard this. Others couldn't understand what he was saying. How could he not understand? Among the older generation, at least Gu Jianfeng is still alive like him. Doesn't the implication of Long Xian's words mean that Gu Jianfeng is dead? Thinking of Gu Jianfeng in Daoshan's small world, if Gu Jianfeng died, the Nangong family wouldn't be able to escape. The Nangong family in the southeast, the Gu family in the northeast, the Su family in Kyoto, and the Du family in the southwest. Except for the Cao family, all the top aristocratic families seemed to have suffered. Long Xian seemed to be chatting with him, but actually there was a hint of threat in it. Cao Meng took a deep breath, so what if he heard it? Long Xian showed his strength as soon as he arrived. Since he dared to attack those two families, he must have sufficient reasons. Now that I haven't taken direct action on myself, I'm afraid it's just because I can't live more than 2 years to give myself some dignity. As long as he dies in 2 years, the Cao family will be exterminated. Thinking of this, Cao Meng sighed and said slowly, I know I don't have much time left. If I can't move around to guard Tianwei for the Dragon Kingdom while I'm still alive, it would be a waste of my strength. Over the past hundreds of years, my Cao family has created a pure land for the Dragon Kingdom in the Central Plains. The younger generation may not be able to take charge of it if they are mediocre. You can ask someone to take it away, so that the people of the 5 states in the Central Plains will not fall into fire and water. As soon as Cao Meng said these words, everyone in the Cao family in the hall was shocked. Ancestor, no, what are you, why are you doing this? You are already so old, how can you go to the battlefield outside that day again? Ancestor, think twice, my Cao family has finally built such a foundation, how can we? That's enough, shut up. Cao Meng shouted angrily. I'm still alive, it's not your turn to make the decision. This. Everyone in the Cao family glanced at their ancestor unwillingly, and no matter how dissatisfied they were, they could only keep silent. When the king saw this, he just smiled and said nothing. Cao Meng continued. From today on, all members of the Cao family will go to Minjiao cave and will not be allowed to go out for 10 years. What? Ancestor, what are you thinking about? How could you make such a decision? Minjiao cave sky is a small world. Not going out for 10 years means that the Cao family will not be able to improve their strength in 10 years. How is this different from cutting off an arm? They don't understand, and they can't understand. You don't need to know why. Please notify us immediately and leave early tomorrow morning. After Cao Meng finished speaking, he looked at the king and said, Tomorrow morning, I will immediately go to the outer battlefield and ask for permission from the king. The king nodded, then bowed, and said, Long Xian respectfully sends Mr. Cao off. After the king finished speaking, he turned around and left the Cao family. His purpose of coming to the Cao family today had been achieved. Cao Meng will definitely perish when he goes to the outer battlefield, and he must perish. Only by dying on the battlefield outside the sky, and with his meritorious deeds, can he protect the Cao family. Early the next morning, the ancestor of the Cao family went to the outer world and fought hundreds of rounds with the leader of one of the outer demons. Both parties eventually died together. Later, in order to commemorate the meritorious service of the ancestor of the Cao family, the Lord of the Dragon Kingdom specially named him the Lord Protector. After the Cao family received the title, they voluntarily entered Minjiao cave and stopped interfering in worldly affairs. All the industries in the 5 states of the Central Plains controlled by the Cao family were also donated to the Dragon Kingdom. The Cao family has come to an end. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 263. Big news. The Nangong family, a great family in the southeast, and the Gu family in the northeast were uprooted by the officials for treason. The Cao family in the Central Plains voluntarily surrendered all their properties and voluntarily retreated to Minjiao cave. The Du family in the southwest had liaison with the foreign enemy Yeshen sect and all of them were executed 10 days ago. Hot searches one after another occupied the headlines of major media early in the morning. Each piece of information is about the major families in the Dragon Kingdom. Even the enthusiasm for the national trial competition was suppressed by these news. Many netizens looked at this piece of news with disbelief. It's so fierce. I actually saw all these big families being wiped out overnight. I'm going to sleep a little longer. Is it true or false? Is there any local netizen who can explain it? It should be true. Our entire city is under martial law, and every few steps on the street are guarded by professionals. Have you eaten? Give me a knife, come and see. So happy. My son's revenge is finally avenged. These aristocratic families should have died long ago. The CAO family is really cheap. Everyone who was oppressed by the aristocratic family rushed to tell each other and celebrated this great news. However, the other smaller aristocratic families were not so happy. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that this is definitely an official plan. But they have reasonable grounds, and every accusation is a serious crime. In addition, the family is not popular among the people, and no one will speak for them. The most powerful families have all fallen, and they have to bow their heads due to the general trend. It can be said that all major aristocratic families are in danger now. A few hours after the news came out, families from all over the Dragon Kingdom, large and small, submitted their declarations of willingness to hand over most of the resources and industries in their hands. At the same time, he laid off 90% of his professional staff and only retained members of his family. As for those aristocratic families who still wanted to resist and were unwilling to voluntarily give up their power, they were naturally wiped out step by step by the authorities. On October 10, 999 in the Long Kingdom calendar, the family's troubles were completely eliminated. The top of Tao Mountain. Although the outside world is lively, it still does not affect the trial competition in Daoshan. Around the only arena on the top of Dao Mountain, tens of thousands of spectators had already filled all the stands. 100 trialists who have entered this round are already gearing up and ready to go. The matchup classification will be announced before the start of the game, which is less than half an hour before the start of the game. It is naturally impossible to hide things from the outside world from them. The hundreds of people who saw the inside story in person last night had mixed emotions at this time. They didn't expect that Wang Changjun would do such a big thing after locking them in the palace. I thought that Suren would be affected by this incident, but what I was waiting for was the news that several major families had been destroyed. When everyone looked at Suren, who was standing at the edge of the ring among 100 testers, their eyes changed. Even though he is a pig, he now understands that Suren is not here to participate in any trial at all. So what kind of trial is needed to be able to kill the top level 9 experts at will? These are definitely people from the aristocratic families that the government invited to deal with them. But so what if they understand it now? Can they go out and ask those aristocratic families for an explanation? That's not just seeking death. So everyone knew it well and buried everything that happened last night in their hearts, pretending that they saw and heard nothing. Moreover, the fall of the aristocratic family is actually a good thing for them, the leaders of the major forces. No one will say anything about this. The only ones who are nervous now are the 100 trial students, because they may face Suren. Many people complain silently in their hearts. Why is Suren still participating? Can't we just award him first place? If I meet him, I'll beat him up. Don't meet him. Don't meet him. If I meet him, what should I do to lose decently? Just as the trial students were praying in their hearts, the match list was projected above the arena. Everyone looked nervously at the lineup. It's okay, I wish it wasn't Suren in the first round. Someone patted their chest and breathed a sigh of relief. However, some people were happy, some were sad, and one person's face was pale and he rubbed his eyes again in disbelief. The result remained the same. His opponent was Suren. It's over, how come I met him in the first round? Haha, my condolences to this brother. A person next to him smiled and comforted. Be quiet. Wang Changjun stepped into the ring, looked around, and announced loudly. Next, I will announce the rules of this competition, please keep them in mind, all trial students. This competition does not restrict any means. The arena has protective measures. Everyone can take action at will without harming life. Killing the opponent in the ring, or one party voluntarily withdrawing from the ring is considered the other party's victory. The elimination rules are that 100 will advance to 50, 50 will advance to 25, 25 will advance to 13, and those who were eliminated before 25 will advance to 13 can enter the top 3 through the loser group. Then the top 13 in the winners group and the top 3 in the losers group will be divided into the top 16. The last 16 are in a single elimination system, so just give it a try. Now, look clearly at the numbers in the matchup table where you are. The two people who read the numbers should enter the ring within 30 seconds. If they fail to do so, they will automatically be judged as failed. After Wang Changjun finished speaking, he walked out of the ring, then looked at the battle table above the ring and said loudly, "Now, please invite number 1 Suren and Zhao Huaikong to come onto the ring." In the stands, Wu Zhenyang looked at the president of Longteng Guild, who was about the same age as him, and gloated. "Lao Qi, Zhao Huaikong is from your guild, right? You're not very lucky, haha." Qi Qiuzhong's face turned dark when he heard this. He and Wu Zhenyang went to Donghai City together. If he had known that, he would have recruited Suren into his guild even if he spent a lot of money. Now seeing Wu Zhenjiang's face, he wanted to punch him. "Lao Qi, you are talking, why are you turning your head away? Can you see the ring like this?" Listening to the chatter beside his ears, Qi Qiuzhong clenched his fists and unclenched them. "Lao Qi, can you hear me? Wu Zhenyang, get out of here, will you die if you don't speak?" Qi Qiuzhong finally couldn't stand it any longer. This guy was just too much of a bully. He was so powerful because of Suren. He couldn't stand him anymore. "Haha, ahem, okay, let's watch the game. Don't be angry. I think your kid still has a chance. Isn't there still a loser's bracket?" Wu Zhenyang stopped provoking him and focused on looking at the ring. At this time, Suren was already standing on the ring, but Zhao Huaikong did not go up. "Zhao Huaikong, where is the person? There are still 10 seconds left. If you don't come up, you will be deemed to have given up." I'm here." Zhao Huaikong thought for a while and took the initiative to step onto the ring. Since he would not die on it anyway, he decided to give it a try. "I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife." Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 264. Seeing that Zhao Huaikong had already taken the stage, Wang Changjun nodded and said, "Game start." Upon hearing this, Zhao Huaikong took the lead in getting into a stance, controlling Qi with his fists and stepping on yin and yang with his feet. But when he saw Suren smiling at him, the scene last night suddenly reappeared again. Gu Dei and Nangong Ao were trampled to death, and Gu Jianfen was killed with a single sword. Zhao Huaikong took a step back in shock, and the skills in his hands disappeared. Zhao Huaikong suddenly raised his hand. "Farewell, I admit defeat." Then he jumped off the stage in 2 steps without looking back. Suren. Suren thought that this man was going to fight him, but he didn't expect that he would admit defeat so quickly. He didn't even take out the knife. Not only Suren was confused, but the entire audience was also confused. They had no idea what happened last night. "Why did you just admit defeat? This is the first game. There's an inside story." "Well, I checked Zhao Huaikong. He is rank 17th in Secret Realm points. He must be strong. Why did he admit defeat before even fighting? Even if Suren ranks first in points, there's no need for him to be so scared, right?" Except for those who had experienced what happened last night and knew what was going on, the rest of the audience looked puzzled. As for the many netizens watching the live broadcast outside, they are even more confused. They were shocked that Suren could participate in this trial. The first game ended in this way. That shocked them even more. Even if they didn't doubt Suren, they would still doubt it. There is a shady story. Zhao Huaikong, I voted for one, and I lost all my money. Fuck, I also voted for Zhao Huaikong to win, but he actually surrendered directly. Look at me if I don't blame him to death. I'm so angry. Give me back the fish balls. No matter how people swipe their screens, the game is still going on. Su Ren shook his head and walked off the ring. Su Ren casually watched the next game, but their destructive power was limited and Su Ren was not interested in watching. It happened that a message was sent to his mobile phone at this time, from Chen Laoba from southwest China. Brother Su Ren, congratulations on your first victory. There is news about the Yamata no Orakai snake scale you are looking for. To be precise, there is news about the Yamata no Orakai. I have verified it in many ways and the credibility of the news is at least 80%. I heard from a businessman who returned from Sakura country that someone had seen the Yamata no Orakai at Futu Mountain Pass. Now many professionals from Sakura country have gone to Futu Mountain to prepare to hunt the Yamata no Orakai. Hope this news is helpful to you. After Su Ren read the news, he thought for a moment. This trial competition can be completed in one day, and it shouldn't be too late to go to Sakura country tomorrow. After all, we have just found traces of Yamata no Orakai, let the group of people look for it first. Thinking of this, Su Ren replied. Help me pay close attention to the news there, and contact me in time if there is any trouble. Okay, don't worry, I'll send people to keep an eye on the news there 24 hours a day. Thank you very much. Chen Yao looked at the news of Su Ren's return, her eyes were a little dazed, and then she held her phone and smiled sweetly. Chen Laoba on the side shook his head and sighed. Hey, my silly sister, can you give me your phone back? Chen Yao shook her head. Brother, why don't you go buy another one? Can you please give me your mobile phone? Please. Okay, here you go. Chen Laoba couldn't stand his sister's coquettishness, so he could only agree to her small request. Seeing that his sister was still holding the phone, Chen Laoba couldn't help but shook his head again and said. You can put it down. Brothers Su Ren are currently competing and won't reply to your message. I'm going to keep an eye on the news about Yamata no Orakai, and I'll tell you when I have it. Okay, thank you, brother. Oh, I really can't do anything about you. Chen Laoba now relies on Su Ren's reputation and has rebuilt his treasure hunting group in just a few days. Now that the number of people in the group has exceeded 1,000, even the leader of the largest treasure hunting group in the city has to take the initiative to say hello when he sees him. Don't be afraid of spending money. You just need to remember that this is the news that Brother Su Ren wants. His matter is the matter of our Beifang treasure hunting group. No matter how much money is spent, it must be done. This was a bit intriguing, and everyone couldn't help but start to guess who Su Ren was. The audience was in an uproar again when they saw this. There's no shady story here, even dogs don't believe it. The whole audience. After hearing the news, Zhao Huaikong, who had been through all the way and regained his confidence, fell down with his eyes darkened. Old Lu, I asked you to send someone to Sakura country. Have you sent them? Captain, I would like to ask, what is Sir Su Ren going to do? Is that easy to say? Yes, Minister. When it was Su Ren's turn, his opponent simply gave up and didn't even enter the ring. Remember not to delay. There was no room for anyone to rest and the game continued. Invincible is so lonely that no one wants to fight with him. When everyone saw this result, there was another discussion, but this did not affect the progress of the game. After several hours of fierce fighting, all the top 16 were finally born. Wang Changjun couldn't help but shook his head when he heard the various denunciations around him, and then said to the men beside him. Captain, we have already sent it. It's just that the cross-sea teleportation is a bit expensive. You sent 20 people there at once. The cost is too much. Zhao Huaikong was in coma due to an accident. Suren won this battle and Suren advanced to the quarter-finals. Because some smart people have discovered that no one among the trialists and the major forces behind them raised any objections. Chen Laoba knew that Suren had brought him all this, so he would naturally spare no effort to deal with Suren. Give him the buy from 25 to 13 miles later. Don't let him go up again. Geneva, refund your money. Chen Laoba walked to the meeting hall of the regiment and shouted loudly. Kill Yamata no Orakai. After leaving these words, Chen Laoba walked out again, leaving only Laolu with a dull look on his face and other members of the treasure hunting group who were still working in the hall. Suren stood on the ring, spread his hands, and then jumped off the ring. In the first round of the top 16, Suren from the winner group will fight against Zhao Huaikong from the loser group. Everyone looked at the national trial competition that was being broadcast live. At this time, the competition had entered the second round of 50 to 25. We paid to come in and see the shady scenes. What to do? Probably kill Yamata no Orakai to get the scales. After Brother Suren goes to Sakura country, help him take care of all the itinerary in advance so that he doesn't make any mistakes. Some people even placed bets that Suren could maintain this method and enter the finals. Wang Changjun glanced at Zhao Huaikong, who had fainted, and said calmly. Under the official operation, Suren successfully received a buy. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 265. All the spectators were already numb. Anyway, as long as they met Suren, his opponents would have various problems. They didn't even bother to complain anymore. Only a few people are still worried. If Suren is really allowed to go to the World Championships, he will be laughed at. The Dragon Kingdom has been losing for several years in a row. Could it be that the officialdom is starting to mess up? No one had an answer for them as the game continued. Everyone who can enter the top 16 is the top genius among the young generation of Dragon Kingdom. Even those who were eliminated due to accidents in the previous rounds will have a chance to advance from the lower bracket. Therefore, these 16 people can basically represent the 16 strongest people of the younger generation of Dragon Kingdom. The 16-8 games lasted for 2 hours before ending. Except for Suren's game, the other 7 games were a life and death battle. In several games, neither side could tell who would win until the last moment. Fortunately, this arena is not a life and death arena. After the fight, everyone can instantly return to the state they were in before entering the arena. Otherwise, many people may not even have the strength to stand up if there is another game. There are no dark horses this year. After watching the 16th to 8th match, the audience commented one after another. Why do I feel like this year is worse than last year? Isn't that bad? Didn't you see that none of the children from the aristocratic family could go up? The intensity of the confrontation has obviously dropped a lot. SHH, let's not touch this topic. Didn't you see the news this morning? The family is basically in ruins. At this time someone interrupted and said. Isn't there a dark horse? Who? Suren, didn't he only reach level 100 twice? He has already made it all the way to the top 8. Isn't he a dark horse? Everyone's faces turned dark when they heard this name. Brother, are you sure he made it all the way to the top 8 instead of lying all the way to the top 8? What kind of dark horse is this? This is pretty much a shady story. But he entered the quarter-finals because of his strength that could not reach 3 rounds. Don't care how he did it. Just tell me whether he entered the quarter-finals. Brother, just be happy that you won. The next 8 to advance to the 4th place will be the showdown that determines the place in the World Championship. I don't believe he can still advance to the semi-finals. As soon as this person finished speaking, the 8-4 matchup list had been divided over there. In order to prevent strong players from being eliminated early, the players with the best performance in the previous round will play against the players with the weakest performance in the previous round. And so on, until the top 4 are selected, and then the bottom 4 compete in 3 rounds to determine the first place, who will be the 5th of the 5 quotas this year to fight for the Dragon Kingdom. The top 4 who have already entered the World Championship will be ranked 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th after 3 rounds of battles. In the first round of the 8-4 match, it was still Suren, and the other player was Chen Fan, who was also from Kyoto Longwu Guild. When Chen Fan saw that he was fighting against Suren, Chen Fan was stunned for a moment, then shook his head with a wry smile. It was already the limit for him to enter the quarter-finals, but he didn't expect that his first game would be against Suren. When Bang Ziguo came to provoke them, if Suren hadn't taken action in time, they would have lost that game. Moreover, Suren also repaired their severed limbs, a great favor that they had not yet had time to repay. Now let him go up and fight Suren. How could he get on stage? Even if he takes the stage, he knows that he cannot be Suren's opponent. I abstain. I am no match for Junior Suren. Chen Fan said loudly and did not choose to enter the ring. Abstaining again? Did you make a mistake? The audience is going crazy. This is 8 out of 4. As long as they win one game, they can represent the Dragon Kingdom in the World Championship and compete for the supreme honor. They all abstained from voting, and they really couldn't figure out why. Is the shady story already so upright? Everyone, be quiet. This is a personal behavior of the players. Please do not slander the official. This competition is a national competition. Everything is fair, just and open. There is absolutely no shady behavior. Please calm down. If anyone dares to throw eggs at the contestants again, I will arrest him for disturbing the peace and send him to jail for free food and drink for 2 days. Seeing the anger of the crowd, Wang Changjun had to stand up and speak. If he doesn't come out, the scene will get out of control. When everyone heard about prison, they instantly calmed down. That was not a place for anyone to stay. However, some people were still whispering, obviously not believing what Wang Changjun said was fair. This is just like an exam. There are 30 multiple choice questions in one test paper, and you can all choose A. Is that possible? When you get halfway through and see all A's, you'll have to wonder if you got a few questions wrong. Suren is in this situation now. His opponents either abstain or admit defeat directly, and even get a bye to him. Don't be too outrageous. Seeing that everyone calmed down, Wang Changjun announced. The game continues. Next, Longwu Guild Mu Hongxia will face off against Jushin Academy Su Sheng. After the game started, both sides bowed each other. Su Sheng used a broadsword, which was very powerful and heavy. As long as he hit with one blow, he would definitely hit the opponent hard. However, Mu Hongxia's body was flexible and she could escape with Doughty's pursuit. Naturally, she would not be afraid of this heavy armored warrior profession. From the very beginning, Mu Hongxia had the upper hand and continued to use her own advantages to launch attacks. Su Sheng had no choice but to block with his knife. However, as time passed, he became unable to resist. Mu Hongxia found the right moment and a fire lotus flew to Su Sheng's head. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the entire arena shook. The next moment, Su Sheng's figure appeared under the ring. Dragon Martial Arts Guild Mu Hongxia wins. Everyone cheered. This was the game they wanted to watch. Mu Hongxia was originally very popular, and with her unparalleled beauty and powerful strength, she naturally won everyone's love. Unlike Suren, who was booed after winning. In the next 2 games, Su Xiao from the Longwu Guild barely defeated his opponents and secured a spot in the top 4. The last remaining spot was taken by a young man in black who was an assassin. At this point, all the top 4 have been born, and the Longwu Guild is the 3rd one, which can be said to be the biggest winner this year. Wu Zhenyang, who was sitting in the stands, almost smiled crookedly. While laughing, he did not forget to brag to the two guild presidents beside him. Lao Chi, Lao Zhang, come on next year, haha. By the way, Suren will only be 19 next year. Let me think about it, he can still participate for 6 years. What will you do in the next few years? I feel a headache for you just thinking about it. Wu Zhenyang, get out of here. Look at your charisma and Suren's strength. Do you think he will still stay in your Longwu guild next year? Maybe they already don't know where they are. The smile on Wu Zhenjiang's face faltered when he heard this. The two people next to them laughed immediately when they saw this, and they finally regained the victory. Haha, let me make you laugh, next year Mu Hongxia will be over 25 years old, and your Longwu guild will have no successor. Humph, as long as I can win this year. We'll talk about the future later. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 266. The semi-finals didn't take much preparation time, because it was getting late and the day was about to pass. The next top 4 matchups are Suren vs Qin Feng, and Mu Hongxia vs Su Xiao. Now, please invite Suren and Qin Feng to the ring. Who is Qin Feng? Why haven't you heard of him? At this time someone finally asked. Obviously this person has played several games, but few people seem to have an impression of him. It was as if this person appeared out of thin air. Perhaps everyone was paying attention to Mu Hongxia and Suren who made it to the semi-finals, so they didn't notice him. He doesn't seem to have joined any guild or force, but he can reach the top 4. It's not easy. Maybe this Qin Feng is the real dark horse. He won't also abstain, right? Everyone looked at the ring. Qin Feng did not choose to abstain this time, but jumped onto the ring in one step. Looking at Suren in front of him, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with darkness. Suren, your name has already been heard by me for a long time. When I saw you today, you are indeed well deserved. They all say how powerful you are, but I'm a little curious about where you are. Qin Feng muttered to himself for a while, and then looked at Suren expectantly. Suren nodded upon hearing this. Please. Qin Feng also nodded slightly, and then disappeared instantly. Suren remembered that he was an assassin, so he wasn't surprised to see him invisible. He just secretly increased his vigilance and was ready to use his blocking skills at any time. Suddenly, the air behind Suren's left side trembled, and Suren's block was immediately released. A dagger slashed across Suren's neck like a ghost. Block successfully. The opponent's attack had no effect, but his speed attracted the attention of everyone in the audience. Wu Zhenyang was so shocked that he almost stood up. This boy's speed is too fast. Is this the speed that a rank 5 assassin can have? The president of Longteng Guild next to him also narrowed his eyes and exclaimed. It only took him less than a breath to go from stealth to attack and kill. Such speed is probably only possible if he has skills such as space jumping. If it was just pure speed, it would be terrible. But Suren also reacted very quickly. He should have used his blocking skill to block the blow. This young man has not joined any force, but I think he can get in touch. The rest of the people watching the game were not strong enough, so naturally they couldn't see that deeply. They only cared about whether the fight between the two sides was exciting. Seeing Suren finally taking action, everyone burst into cheers. If we fight, I want to see rivers of blood. Finally something interesting. Come on Qin Feng, get Surenkin down quickly and let him know that you can never get far by relying on shady practices. But the cheers of the crowd were not over yet. Qin Feng had already appeared under the ring. I'm no match for you, I admit defeat. The whole audience. When Wu Zhenyang and others saw this, They looked at each other and felt that some monk Zhang Er was confused. He only has the skill? Why did he just give up? It's indeed strange. Didn't this just happen? No one can understand what Qin Feng is thinking. Only Qin Feng stood there with an indifferent expression, at least on the surface. This battle, Su Ren wins. Wang Changjun took a deep look at Qin Feng and then announced the result of the game. The next match will be between Mu Hongxia and Su Xiao. I abstain. I am no match for senior sister Mu. Su Xiao gave up this round of competition directly. He knew that his strength was still far behind Mu Hongxia's. If it weren't for the deaths of those children from aristocratic families this time, he would have missed the top 4. So it was easy to abstain. Wang Changjun nodded and announced loudly. Mu Hongxia wins. Next, Qin Feng will fight Su Xiao to compete for 3rd place. The two entered the ring, but at this time some audience members wondered. Wait a minute, which force does this Qin Feng belong to? Why is he starting to compete for the 3rd or 4th position? When did he enter the semi-finals? How come I have no impression of this person at all? When you say it, I don't seem to have any impression of him. Is he the dark horse of this competition? No, then why did Su Ren enter the finals? Did he go in lying down again? He really didn't even have to go to the ring. Is there any mistake? There was also some shady behavior in the finals. When everyone saw Su Ren's ranking, they started to complain. It seemed that everyone had lost their memory and forgot that Su Ren had already fought against Qin Feng in the ring just now. On the ring, Qin Feng cupped his hands and said, "Please." Su Xiao glanced at Qin Feng in confusion. He didn't remember what skills this man had. The memory of Qin Feng was very weak in his memory. It's like facing a very strange stranger. "Please." Su Xiao also raised his hand. Then he braced himself and prepared to face the enemy. Although he didn't know what skills the opponent had, he was definitely not an ordinary person who could break into the top 4. Huh? Where are the people? Su Xiaogang raised his head, and Qin Feng, who was opposite him just now, had disappeared. Puff. The sound of the blade piercing the body rang in Su Xiao's ears. He only had time to lower his head and glance at the dagger on his chest, and the next second it appeared under the ring. In the ring, Qin Feng put away his dagger casually. Opponents like Su Xiao seemed too easy for him and he could defeat them without any effort. Wang Changjun was stunned for a moment when he saw this, and then quickly announced. Qin Feng Shen won the 3rd place in this national trial competition, and Su Xiao won the 4th place in this national trial competition. Wu Zhenyang and others looked at Qin Feng and praised. This boy is so fast. He hasn't joined any force yet, right? If you have the chance, you should get in touch with him. Huh? Did I just say this once? Why do you feel like you are forgetting something today? Before they could figure it out, Wang Changjun shouted again. Next, we will compete for the championship and runner-up in this year's national trial competition. The decisive battle will be between Su Ren and Mu Hongxia. Let's. I abstain. Before Wang Changjun could finish speaking, Mu Hongxia raised her hands and admitted defeat. Wow! Both the live audience and those watching the live broadcast were in a collective uproar. The scene was filled with boos and could not stop for a long time. This is simply rubbing their IQ on the ground. To go all the way to the finals and win the championship, could this be any more outrageous? As long as you act, everyone will accept it, but it would be better for you to not even act. This doesn't take the audience seriously at all. Under the ring, Qin Feng, who was standing in the shadows, frowned when he heard Mu Hongxia's words of abstention. I originally wanted others to test your other skills. Why is that so? It seems that I can only take action directly. Qin Feng's eyes instantly became extremely cold, and then he shouted softly. Big dream of eternity, go. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 267. After Qin Feng finished speaking, a black lightning flashed across the sky. Endless black clouds rolled in from the sky, and in just a moment, the entire Daoshan mountain was shrouded in darkness. What's going on? Why is it so dark? Everyone looked up at the sky and let out bursts of exclamations. Outside, the screen in front of the audience who was watching the live broadcast suddenly went black, and the live broadcast signal was instantly interrupted. What the hell? The internet is disconnected, network administrator. Can you see me talking? No one will notice if you take a bite of shit secretly while there are many people around, right? Is there any mistake? Why did something go wrong at this time? Everyone is disconnected? That's good. I thought my phone was broken. Kyoto, in the office of the king. The king couldn't help but reveal a faint smile as he looked at the documents regarding the integration of aristocratic families coming from various state capitals. The troubles of the family have been eliminated, and he can do what he wants to do with peace of mind. Suren should have won first place in this year's trial competition by now. He is responsible for the family's troubles, so he must be given the rewards he deserves. I just don't know what he lacks. I can ask Wang Changjun to ask him later. As soon as the king closed the document in his hand, there was a knock on the office door. Enter. Someone pushed the door open and came in, bowed and said, Master, something happened in Daoshan. After hearing this, the king looked up at him and said doubtfully, What happened? Tell me. On the live broadcast screen just now, the competition for the championship and runner-up was supposed to be completed, but all the live broadcast screen signals were interrupted instantly. We wanted to send people into Daoshan's small world, but found that the transmission channel has been blocked and cannot be entered. We have lost contact with Daoshan NEI. I am afraid that the remnants of the aristocratic family have gotten into it and want to take revenge on us. After hearing the report from his subordinates, the king was not anxious, but continued to ask. Has there been any unusual movement in Dao Mountain before? There was no abnormality, everything was normal and orderly. It's just that Suren made it all the way to the finals and won the championship, which made the audience who didn't know his strength a little dissatisfied. The king nodded. He had been dealing with the family affairs today and did not pay attention to what happened in Daoshan. Suren won the championship in this way, which made him feel a little funny. This kid knows how to play. In fact, he was not worried about what happened in Daoshan. With Suren inside, if someone dared to make trouble, the unlucky one would be the troublemaker. With him inside, nothing will happen. You should pay close attention to what's going on inside and report any situation to me in time. Yes, Lord. Deep in an unknown mountain somewhere on Blue Star. In the dark and damp stone hall, the leader of the night god Sek sat on the throne. Looking at the disconnected live broadcast in front of him, he couldn't help but frown under the mask. The blood demon standing on the left side of the hall saw this and said loudly, Leader, Shadow is too eager for quick success and acts like this. My subordinates are worried that he will die at the hands of Na Suren. It has personally seen the terror of Suren. Unless it makes a sneak attack, it will never be an opponent of Suren in a head-on battle. The Shadow did not take advantage of its own advantages and chose to fight Suren head-on. In its view, it was no different from seeking death. Shuadongliu didn't listen to its advice at first, and almost lost his life as a result. Next to the blood demon, a strong man holding a bloody giant sword and wearing a black gauze over his eyes asked in a deep voice. Is this young man really that powerful? The blood demon nodded, still a little frightened in his eyes. I was killed by him with one strike, and my true origin has not been fully restored. What do you think of his strength? That's really good. I want to meet him. The strong man's blood surged, and scarlet murderous intent instantly enveloped his body. Seeing this, the blood demon shook his head. This man was a lunatic. He had already said that Suren was very powerful, yet he still wanted to meet him. At this time, the leader of Yashin cult, who had been silent for a long time, spoke. Yato, Du and you two go to pick up Shadow together and make sure to rescue him. Shadow's unauthorized actions made him a little angry. He had clearly told the other party that he could only take action when the night poison could not be planted in Suren. Now that Shadow ignored his order and tried to kill Suren with his own power, it would have been a shame to die. But now the Yeshen cult is in the process of employing people, and he must rescue Shadow. Yes, leader. The two of them turned around and walked out of the palace. After the two people left, the space in the hall suddenly distorted, and then a space portal several meters high appeared in the center of the hall. Seeing this, the leader of the Yeshen cult stood up quickly, bowed and said, "I've met Lord Yagamai." Wang Changjun raised his head and frowned at the strange situation in the sky. Inside Tao Mountain. No, I have to go to Daoshan myself. No more accidents can happen this time. An artifact. Although Wang Changjun didn't know what happened, he knew that order could not be disrupted, otherwise something would definitely happen if tens of thousands of people got into chaos. Shout loudly if anything happens. Everyone works in groups of 4 and looks at 8 directions to maintain order on the scene and prevent trampling and other accidents. The leader of the Night God sect took one step forward, and his figure turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared into the hall. Before everyone could finish their discussion, the black head in the sky suddenly spoke. The space was distorted again, and the door disappeared. A black shadow flew into the air at Qin Feng's feet, and Qin Feng, who was still alive and kicking, immediately fell to the ground without making a sound. All career professionals above level 7 come to me. No, this pressure is more terrifying than anyone I have ever seen. We are no match for it. His target was Suren, and he didn't care about the others. The leader of the Night God cult raised his head and murmured. The sudden change plunged everyone in the venue into chaos. Wang Changjun looked at the number of people. There were more than 30 people. Everyone, sit where you are and don't move around. After saying this, the black mask slowly retreated into the space gate. Black lightning kept exploding in the air, and then a huge black head emerged from the churning black clouds. What is this? After assigning tasks, everyone nodded and took their positions. Stupid mortal, why don't you kneel down when you see this god? There was a thunder, and the black clouds in the sky stirred wildly like a whirlpool. Send someone to the cherry blossom country. The dream city in the mirror is about to appear. Get the artifact dream mirror. It will be of great use to me. Don't let me down again. Qin Feng glanced at Wang Changjun and ignored him. Wang Changjun shouted again. A huge black mask flew out of the space, and then the mask spoke human words. Boom. Upon hearing this, many professionals who matched their abilities all went to the area around the ring. Everyone take out the lighting equipment you carry with you and don't panic. Wang Changjun shouted loudly and tried his best to control the scene. Everyone looked at the huge head in the sky in horror, feeling the terrifying pressure, and their legs began to tremble involuntarily. Wu Zhenyang shook his head. Wu Zhenyang, have you ever seen this thing? I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 268. His voice was like thunder, but just this slight shout shook everyone's blood and anger, and their hearts were shattered. Countless people fell to the ground, vomiting blood, and their faces were full of horror. This is a deep sense of fear and powerlessness. The more fearful it is, the greater the harm will be suffered, and some who are timid may even die on the spot. Suren stood on the ring and looked up at the head in the sky. He had no fear in his heart, so he was not hurt at all. but others didn't have it so well. Is this, really a god? I feel like I can't move. Everyone was so frightened that they knelt down and shouted loudly. Gods, have mercy on me, gods, have mercy on me. Wu Zhenyang and other 8th level professionals were shocked when faced with this so-called god. They had never seen such a battle. The last time Wang Changjun was in the southwest, they only heard that a fire god appeared behind them. However, he was still in a coma at the time and had not seen it with his own eyes. Everyone, don't be afraid. This thing seems to be more afraid of us the more harm he does to us. Wang Changjun had never seen the god of fire, but he knew that the god of fire died in the hands of Suren, so he was relatively not that scared when Suren was still present. He just looked around and found that the degree of injuries was not determined by strength, but by the degree of fear of this god. Because there are several 7th level professionals who have fallen to the ground because of too much fear. On the contrary, the injuries suffered by some trial students were relatively minor. After Wang Changjun's reminder, everyone around him nodded. But the fear in their hearts is not something they can resist if they want to. The head in the air looked up to the sky and laughed, and waves of authority came again. Ha 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 ha, stupid mortals, do you know how powerful this god is? Those who were already afraid fell down countless times again after this impact. You. Before he could say anything, a sword light had already been slashed out. Boom. The dark clouds in the sky were cut in half together with the head. A ray of light shone down from the dark clouds and reflected on Suren's face above the ring. Suren held 1,000 blades of the magic sword and stood with his hands behind his back. At this moment, Suren was more like the legendary god. Suren has taken action. Wang Changjun's face was filled with excitement. With Suren here, he was absolutely relieved. Those who were kneeling on the ground looked at the young man on the ring, and their bodies that were trembling with fear suddenly relaxed. Under the dark night sky, that ray of light seemed to be their life-saving straw. This young man has always made them complain and even curse him for using a shady secret to win the championship. At this time, it seemed to be a light in their hearts. Roar. A roar sounded in the air, and the entire Daoshan small world seemed to be shaken by it. The chopped-off dark clouds gathered together again, and the chopped-off head slowly came back together. That ray of hope was instantly extinguished. He's not dead. Everyone was shocked again when they saw this. They thought they had been rescued and now fell into fear again. Suren also looked at the head in the sky in confusion at this time. If you eat me, you won't die. Either it's a clone, or it's an illusion. The possibility of a clone is unlikely, then it can only be an illusion. Suren glanced at the pet space. Cair could break the illusion, but she was still incubating, so she definitely couldn't count on it. It's a bit troublesome. Suren didn't wait for the head to speak, and slashed it out again. The scene just now reappeared. Everyone was a little confused after being pulled back and forth. This actually dispersed their original fear a lot. The so-called gods don't seem to be strong, and they can't withstand Suren's sword. This time, the head did not choose to fuse, but exploded and scattered. The world was distorted, and the people who were originally on the top of Dao Mountain were horrified to find that everyone was in the crater of a volcano. There is only one stone for everyone to stand on, and under the stone there is boiling hot lava. Where is this? It's so hot. Help me, I'm going to be burned to death. Ah, help. Everyone screamed, and many people ran away in fear, and then fell into the lava and burned to death. What the hell is going on? Wang Changjun looked around, and then looked at Suren, who was standing not far away. Suren, what exactly is this? Don't be afraid, it's just an illusion, it's all fake. You protect your heart, as long as you are not afraid, you will be fine. Wang Changjun nodded when he heard this, and then shouted. Don't be afraid, everyone, they are all fake. But having said that, watching the people around them fall into the lava one by one, the shrill screams deeply stimulated everyone's nerves. How could this be false? They were all burned to death. And the temperature is getting higher and higher. How could it be fake? Several people couldn't control the fear in their hearts and fell into the lava and screamed several times. Seeing this, Suren summoned the Ice Dragon King and let it freeze the magma under his feet. After all, these people couldn't stop the fear in their hearts. Suren had no choice but to let the Ice Dragon King take action to at least make them feel at ease. At this time, the scene changed again, and the originally hot environment instantly became extremely cold. Looking around, the sky and the earth are all white, and goose feather like snow keeps falling to the ground. Everyone who was shouting for warmth 1 second was already shivering with cold the next second, huddled on the ground and clinging to each other to keep warm. Suren glanced at his feet, and then slashed out with his sword. I don't believe you have unlimited energy to maintain this illusion forever. Boom! A bottomless crack opened in the earth. Suren slashed toward the sky with several knives. Crack! The sky shattered like a mirror. The sky and the earth split open at the same time. The top of Tao Mountain. If someone came in at this time, they would find everyone lying on the same spot as if they were asleep. However, some were vomiting blood and had already died, some were charred and black, as if they had been burned to death by fire, and some were curled up with their bodies frozen into ice. Qin Feng, who was lying on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes and stood up, his eyes filled with horror. This man, he actually used brute force to crush my dream. Looking at Suren sleeping cross-legged with his eyes closed, Qin Feng dodged and stabbed Suren's heart with the dagger in his hand. But as soon as he got closer, Suren's eyes suddenly opened. Oh, it's you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 269. Qin Feng was shocked. He didn't expect Suren to wake up so quickly, but now the arrow was on the string and he had to shoot. Go to hell. Qin Feng stabbed him decisively. However, his knife did not penetrate as he imagined, because at this time, his whole body had a big character fixed in front of Suren. Suren raised his hand and shook it gently, and asked in a cold voice. Who sent you? The water in Qin Feng's body slowly twisted his body into a twist under Suren's control, but the process was very slow. Feeling the riot in his body, Qin Feng's face turned red and showed pain. However, he still said stubbornly. Boy, do you think you can force me to reveal my origins using this method? Qin Feng suddenly laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha, this body is not mine at all. What can you do to me if you kill him? Qin Feng finished his words. A black shadow flew out of his body and flew towards Suren at an extremely fast speed. From beginning to end, Qin Feng's body was just a bait, and his shadow was the killing move. Suren had no time to draw his sword. Even if he drew his sword and struck, he could not hit the invisible body. When the shadow was about to enter Suren's body, Keng! A sword beam reaching the sky came out of Suren's body. A figure in white clothes stood behind Suren and stared into the distance. The shadow was forced back by the sword light and flew back. After standing still, he looked at the shadow behind Suren with some surprise. Sword God Li Shaobai. Sword God Shuiying looked at him indifferently and said softly. It turns out he's Yezi's lackey, so I'll send you on your way. The phantom of the sword god waved his long sword lightly, and the sharp sword edge was directed towards the shadow. Looking at the unparalleled sword light, Shadow was shocked. He definitely couldn't bear this sword. At this moment, a mountain-like figure broke through the entrance to the small world, and a blood-red figure behind it quickly followed. Yato, Duan Yu, help me quickly. The shadow is like a drowning man grasping at the last straw. Let us also come and see what the so-called sword god is. The three people combined together to form a defensive barrier to resist the sword god's sword light. When Suren saw this, he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to strike out with his sword, but unexpectedly, the sky suddenly turned dark at this moment. A cold and majestic voice sounded in Daoshan. The sword god's will is indeed powerful. However, after all, it is just a ray of will. If you were to come here, I would not dare to show up. Look at my black dragon scepter. Roar. A black dragon rushed from the sky toward the sword light slashed out by the phantom of the sword god. The pressure on the three people who had been struggling to resist was greatly reduced with the help of the black dragon. There was only one ray of sword intention, which was given to Suren by the sword god's will in the Babel Tower to save his life. Now being resisted by the leader of the Yagod cult and several top combat forces in the Yagod cult, it finally slowly dissipated. Boom! When the sword intent dissipated, it exploded with a bang. The three members of the Yeshen cult were caught off guard and were blown away. Seeing this, sword god Shuiying could not help but frown. Suren, you should handle it carefully. I can't use my will to strike the second sword. After finishing speaking, the phantom of the sword god slowly disappeared. The ferocious sword intent in the small world also disappeared with the dissipation of the sword god's shadow. The leader of the Yeshen cult landed on the ring. When he saw Suren taking out his sword and about to draw it, he immediately stopped him loudly. Suren, do you want these people to die? The leader of the night god cult pointed at the tens of thousands of people who had fallen into a deep sleep and had not yet woken up. To be honest, he was also a little afraid of Suren's knife that seemed to be capable of cutting everything. After his investigation, he found that as long as Suren used the sword, the person who was beheaded would definitely die. So when he first entered Daoshan, he used the black dragon staff to block the attack of the sword god's shadow for the three of them. While using the secret method of Yeshen cult to control everyone in Daoshan. If you take action, you may be able to kill me, but they will also die. How about we make a deal? The lives of tens of thousands of people will be exchanged for our departure. What if I don't agree? Suren replied coldly. If he remembered correctly, this person should be the leader of the night god cult. When he rescued Xiaoding, this man was sitting on the throne. The leader of the night god sect shook his head and smiled when he heard this. The leader of the Yeshen sect was not angry when he heard this, but smiled and said. Only Duan Yu simply wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and it didn't look like he was seriously injured. Outside the small world, there were already official people who rushed in when the small world portal was broken. The three of them lowered their heads after hearing this. This time, they were a little embarrassed. The three of them worked together and were almost killed by a wisp of sword intent left behind by their will. The Yeshen cult rebelled, some people died, and others just fell asleep. Get out. What? The night god cult. You and I have already reached the pinnacle of this world in terms of strength. What attracts you and me in this world is not only greater strength, but also the mystery and unknown outside that day. Suren, have you thought about it clearly? Today we can only fight to the death. Mr. Su, I am Feng Ziping, the personal bodyguard of the king. What happened here? Based on my understanding of you, you can't possibly abandon them. As for the others, there is absolutely no way to deal with them. Seeing Suren's silence, the leader of Yeshen cult continued. Suren was non-committal. At this time, the three people who had been blown away had stood up again and walked behind the leader of the night god cult. Looking at the sleeping people on the ground, the leader cupped his hands towards Suren on the ring and said, I will definitely report this matter to the king. The leader of the night god sect waved his hand, and the black mist enveloped the three blood demons. Under the distortion of space, several people disappeared into the small world of Daoshan. If you join us, we will definitely be able to follow the footsteps of Night God and leave this place of exile to see what the scenery is like outside. With the power currently displayed by the Yeshen cult, I am afraid that it will take the few old men guarding Tianwai to come back in person to put some pressure on them. The leader of the Night God sect glanced at the three of them. If I don't come, none of you will be able to leave today. The Yeshen cult is so brave and dares to openly challenge our Dragon Kingdom. Shadow, the primary target, was obviously seriously injured. The Blood Demon's origin had never been restored, and he was seriously injured at this time. The leader of the Night God sect shook the Black Dragon staff in his hand, and Suranruo was determined not to let them leave. I'm sure you think so too. However, by the time they arrived from the foot of the mountain to the top, several members of the Night God sect had already left here. The shadow of the shadow became much darker. Although the sword god's sword light was not as powerful as Suran's sword drawing slash, it could kill the invisible body. They have no flying skills, so they can only run slowly from the bottom of the mountain to the top. See you again when you have a chance. I hope you can consider what I said. Master, why are you here in person? To be honest, I admire you very much. If you are interested, the door of our Yeshen cult will be open to you at any time. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 270. When Feng Ziping sent someone to wake everyone up, those who woke up looked around in confusion. It feels like I've had such a long dream. Aren't we watching a game? Why did we fall asleep? I don't know, what happened? Why do I remember that there was a terrifying god in my dream who wanted to kill us? What happened next? It seems like someone saved us. Yes, I also remembered it. It seemed that Suran rescued us. I also saw him cut the earth into pieces with one strike. After being reminded by others, everyone remembered that this was indeed the case. Although it sounds outrageous, everyone did see that scene. Ah! At this time, a scream sounded, and everyone looked for the sound. I saw a burnt black corpse next to the screaming man. And there was more than one such corpse in the whole scene, but they died in different ways. Dream, what happened in the dream is real. They all died in their dreams. What happened? Everyone is looking for Suran, but only Suran can resist the god in his dream. But when they woke up, Suran had already left the small world with Feng Ziping and was at the teleportation array back to Kyoto. What does the king want from me? Looking at Feng Ziping who was laying the raw energy stones, Suran asked. I don't know, I'm just responsible for taking Mr. Su there. Seeing this, Suran didn't ask any more questions. He just stood aside and thought about what the leader of the Yeshen cult said. Although it is not ruled out that the other party told him what he said to get away, Suran was indeed very interested in Tianwai. The place of exile. Suran has heard this word several times. Does the place of exile mentioned by the Night God cult refer to Blue Star? Why is Blue Star called the place of exile? Is this a place abandoned and exiled by someone? Suran had no other information, so he couldn't figure it out. The members of the Night God cult are all extremely powerful, and their life-saving methods are top-notch, so their moves are also weird and unpredictable. It was basically impossible for Suran to capture them alive. Now it seems that we can only see if the third-level skills can punish them. Otherwise, I still won't be able to catch them next time we meet. Had it not been for the sword intention left by the sword god this time, I would have had no choice but to dig a hole and escape at the last moment when the shadow struck. I'm still too weak. As soon as I see the king, I will go to Sakura Kingdom to get the scales of the Yamata no Orokai to complete the third turn. Master Su, the teleportation array has been set up and we are ready to go. Suren recovered from his thoughts, nodded, and walked into the teleportation array with fengzipping. Outside a large city in the Dragon Kingdom, the space fluctuated. 4 figures walked out. The leader of the night god cult covered his chest with one hand, and held the staff weakly with the other hand while panting. "Master, what are you doing?" The 3 blood demons asked worriedly upon seeing this. The leader of the night god cult shook his head. "That sword god's sword intent is very strong. I paid a small price to block it for you. Leader, I know my mistake." Shadow knelt on one knee, not daring to look up at the leader of the night god sect. "Humph, I asked you to find a way to control him with a night poison first. Who asked you to kill him directly? Now that I can't kill him, it has made him defensive. If he intends to go against our sect and affect Yeshen's plan, it will not be a pity for you to die 10,000 times. My subordinates don't dare to do anything anymore. Please forgive me, Master. If I hadn't kept you useful, I would never have saved you. Get up." "Yes, thank you Master for saving your life. Break the prison." The leader of the night god sect looked at the strong man. "My subordinate is here. You have not lost much strength in the section. You will go to Sakura country tomorrow. The Lord of the Night has ordered us to seize the artifact Dream Mirror. My followers in Sakura country are at your disposal." "Yes, I obey." "Well, remember, this must not fail. No matter who dares to stop you, I will kill them all." After speaking, the leader of the Yeshen cult raised his head and glanced at the sky, waved his hand and said, "It's getting dark. Let's go to the city first and return to the temple tomorrow." The 4 of them rushed into the city quickly. No one dared to stay outside the city for a second at night. Even people as powerful as the leader of the night god cult and others are no exception. Same request, wait for explanation. This trial was a serious dereliction of duty by the competition officials, and we request that those responsible be severely punished. It is rumored that Suran, the champion of this trial competition, cut through the dream world with one sword to save everyone. The news is 70% credible. But it's normal. If such an accident happened in a major event that attracted national attention, there would probably be trouble outside. Wang Changjun looked at the mess all over the ground and had a headache. This was the first time he had presided over such a major event, and something went wrong. As everyone in Daoshan went out, everything that happened inside was made public. So everyone left Daoshan's small world overnight and teleported back to their own cities. Everyone in the dream was afraid of it, but the more afraid it was, the greater the damage would be. I remember that there was only one person who was not afraid, and that was Suran. Later I found out that we had actually entered its dreamland before that. Minister Wang, we don't know what happened. You have to ask Suran about this. Wu Zhenyang shook his head and smiled. Wang Changjun was frightened now. Just as Wu Zhenyang thought. What exactly are those terrifying creatures? Why are there so many masters in Dao Mountain so defenseless? Can anyone from Dao Mountain explain it? No one is in the mood to stay here anymore, and no one knows if that thing will come back. Let me tell you, none of us know when that creature entered Daoshan. It was just as soon as it got dark that the creature appeared in the sky. Thanks to Suran, we were able to get out of Daoshan alive. Thousands of spectators died. Too many people have experienced this firsthand, and it's impossible to stop it. Suran was said to have gone to see the king. Thinking of this, Wang Changjun was shocked. It's bad, Suran won't sue me, right? If he accuses me of neglecting my duties to the king, I won't even be able to become the Minister of Defense. Hot searches instantly overwhelmed the family incident during the day, attracting countless people to participate in the discussion. Suran's strength is a mystery, no one knows his specific strength. Haha, don't worry, Minister Wang. I still know a little about that boy Suran. He is not that kind of person. A terrifying creature appears in Daoshan and kills people in dreams. President Wu, please don't leave yet and give me some advice. How do you explain this to the outside world? That mysterious thing was either killed by Suren or driven away by him. Only he knows this. This will inevitably affect his career. Inside Tao Mountain. Mainly because the champion Suren left, and many people died on the scene. Wang Changjun sighed after hearing this. Everyone waited for a long time, and finally someone explained. I don't know what his strength is, but I know that he is the most courageous among all the professionals on the scene. Wang Changjun stopped Wu Zhenyang and others and asked them for their opinions. The originally planned award ceremony was also temporarily cancelled due to this incident. Suren, in my heart, is the well-deserved champion of this trial competition.